It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve as I crossed the long entrance hall of my house on my way from the dining room where we had just enjoyed the first of our happy festive meals towards the drawing room and the fire around which my family were now assembled. I paused and, as I often do in the course of an evening, moved to the front door, opened it, and stepped outside.
This is intended to be of interest, I take it?
Yes, of course.
Then why announce it as if it were the stock market prices?
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Let us see this entrance hall. Let us see this house. Let us taste and smell this happy, festive meal.
But that's impossible.
No, sir. Draw on your emotions and on our imaginations.
Forgive me, I am not an actor.
No. Again. Try it again.
It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve as I crossed the long entrance hall of my house on my way from the dining
You'll forgive
room.
Me. I know that what you read holds particular significance for you, that it is possible it will cause you some distress. But I must implore you, sir, have sympathy with your audience.
Sir?
Just now, we are alone here in this theatre. These rows of empty seats are unlikely to protest as you hum and mumble your way through your lines, but believe me, sir, speak them thus before an audience, and you'll see them one by one expire with boredom.
It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve as I crossed the long entrance hall of my house.
Long entrance hall?
Yes, that's right.
Why long?
Because it is.
Have sympathy with your audience. Are they interested in its length?
I apologize. I'm clearly wasting your time.
Stay where you are.
This is a foolish adventure. I should never have come.
You did, however, and you have paid me for the day. I have no intention of not giving you full value for money.
Please.
No, sir. Attempt to leave, and I will leap upon you and compel you to recite the sonnets in their entirety. No, sir. We'll make an actor of you yet.
I have no wish to be an actor. All I wish, implore, is that this tale of mine be told and laid to rest, God willing, so that I may sleep without nightmares.
Which is why you came to me.
Yes.
As one practiced in these things.
Yes.
As one who will impart to you the rudiments of public speaking, who will offer you advice as to expression and delivery, but above all, instill in you the confidence to stand up and make a go of it.
Confidence?
Yes, confidence. Now then, 9:30, Christmas Eve, crisp air, crackling fires, children asleep with stockings by their beds, a happy family, contented, delighted, and above all, at peace.
It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve as I crossed the long entrance hall. Oh, yes. The entrance hall of my house. It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve. It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve.
What time was it?
9:30.
Not on Christmas Eve, by any chance? Good gracious.
I'm sorry, this clearly isn't a success.
You see, it doesn't come in 5 minutes. You think to stand up, recite your tale, and have the audience hang upon your every word as if that's all it takes. In which case, why did you come to me? So that I'll say, yes, bravo, without a flaw? Believe me, sir, performance is an art acquired with tears and time. I'd be very grateful, sir, if every time I offered you advice, you would not put up your manuscript and make to stalk out of the theatre.
Advice?
Yes, advice.
It sounds more like reproval.
Believe me, sir, as the day goes on, it's more likely to sound so.
May I just say that it is not a performance that I wish to give. No. I think we are at a misunderstanding in that respect. I wish to speak it. No more. To my family only, those who need to know. I am not a performer. I have no inclinations nor pretensions to be. But these most horrible events that happened to me, I have to let them be told for my health and reason.
You say you are not a performer.
Oh, truly.
In your hand is a manuscript, which, on estimate, will take 5 hours to read. Now, if you, as an acknowledged non-performer, should stand in front of an audience, however friendly, and drone at them for longer than it takes to play King Lear, I trust you will be unsurprised if by the end of it they are either fast asleep or at your throat.
5 hours.
At least.
Oh, good heavens, I'd no idea. 5 hours? I cannot possibly tell. It must be told. I cannot carry the burden any longer. It must be told.
It was 9:30 on Christmas Eve. As I opened my front door and stepped outside, I smelled at once, and with a lightening spirit, that there had been a change in the weather. All the previous week, we had had thin, chilling rain and a mist that lay low about the house and over the countryside. But now, the damp and fogs had stolen away like thieves into the night. The sky was pricked over with stars, and a full moon rimmed with a halo of frost. There was something in the air that night. That my peace of mind was about to be disturbed, and memories evoked that I had thought forever dead, I had, naturally, no idea. I took one last look at the frosty darkness, sighed contentedly, and went in to the happy company of my family. At one end of the room stood the Christmas tree, candlelit and bedecked. Beneath it were the presents. I became aware that I'd interrupted the others in a lively conversation. We're telling ghost stories, just the thing for Christmas Eve, and so they were. Vying with each other to tell the horridest, most spine-chilling tale. They told of dripping stone walls in uninhabited castles, of ivy-clad monastery ruins by moonlight, of locked-inner rooms, of overgrown churchyards. This was a sport, a high-spirited and harmless game among young people. I did not want to seem a killjoy, old, stodgy, unimaginative. I turned my head so that none of them should see my discomfiture. And now a story from you. Oh no, I said, oh no, nothing from me. Oh, come on, you must know one story. Everyone knows one ghost story. Ah, yes. Ah, yes, indeed. All the time I had been listening to their ghoulish, lurid inventions. The one thought that had been in my mind, and the only thing I could possibly have said was, no! No, you have none of you any idea. This is fantasy, absurd. The truth is quite other, and altogether more terrible. I'm sorry to disappoint you, I said, but I have no story to tell. I went quickly from the room and from the house. I walked in a frenzy of agitation, my breathing short, my heart pounding. I had always known in my heart that that experience would never leave me, that it was woven into the fibers of my being. Ah, yes. Yes, I had a ghost story, a true story, a story of haunting and evil, fear and confusion, horror and tragedy. But it was not a story to be told around the fireplace on Christmas Eve. And then I thought you might recite the piece from Hamlet.
Hamlet?
Some say that ever against that season comes...
Oh, yes, of course. You then, for the purposes of the reading, become me.
Quite so. I become you, and you, for the purpose of performance, you draw on your memory to be those people that you met, who played their part in your story.
Sir, this is not a performance. I am not a performer.
So I know.
This must not be entertainment. These most horrible events will not be treated as amusement or diversion. I insist, sir.
And I insist, sir, that you consider your audience. However horrible, if your tale is to be heard, it must be offered in a form that is remotely palatable. You have come to me for advice and assistance. You must trust me. Now, from here, if you please, and let us show that we mean business. So, your cue is fear and confusion, horror and tragedy, but it was not a story to be told around the fireplace on Christmas Eve.
Some say that ever against that season comes, wherein our Saviour's birth is celebrated, this bird of dawning singeth all night long. Then, they say, no spirit dare stir abroad. Then, the nights are wholesome. No planet strike, nor fairy takes, nor witch hath power to charm. So hallowed and so gracious is that time.
Those lines came into my head as if from heaven, and I felt a great peace come upon me. I recalled that the way to banish an old ghost that continues its hauntings is to exorcise it. Well then, mine should be exorcised. I would tell my story. I would set it down with every care and in every detail, and then, so that they might know and that I might be forever purged of it, relive it through the telling. I offered a simple, heartfelt prayer for peace of mind and for strength and steadfastness to endure while I completed the most agonizing task. The first part, the writing, I have done. Now for the telling. I pray for God's protection on us all. Good morning.
Good morning.
I trust you slept well.
Thank you, yes.
No nightmares?
Not too bad, I thank you.
So we are not over it yet.
I fear I never will be.
Come. We'll have you playful as a lamb again. You mark my words. Now, did you study as I told you to?
As best I can. You must forgive me. This is not my forte.
Well, no. But for the sake of our audience, let us at least try.
This audience you speak of, it is to be only my family and friends. You don't intend to make a public spectacle of my
story? No. Your family, your friends, perhaps the odd theatrical agent. Now, the scene. London. Interior of the offices of solicitors Bentley, Sweetman, Haig, and Bentley. And Mr. Kipps, I have a surprise for you.
Oh? What's that?
Thank you, Mr. Bell.
Recorded sound.
Precisely. A remarkable invention, is it not?
Extraordinarily true to life. I could swear I was standing in a London street.
And so, Mr. Kipps, will our audience. No need to speak of cars and trams and buses, of dirt and grime. No need indeed for words. Just let the recorded sound be heard and they are there, transported.
But the scene is to be in an office, is it not? Why do we have London's traffic flowing through an office?
Why indeed. I thank you.
Remarkable.
The miracle of science, the hands of Mr. Bell. He's particularly good at this kind of thing. Now then, to work. I am you, you are your clerk. I enter briskly, you are already at work.
You must forgive me. This is not
your
my
forte. Yes, I know. And it won't be so unless you begin to attempt it. Just as we went through it last night. Foul day, Holmes.
Yes, Mr. Kipps.
November, the dreariest month of the year, lowering to the spirits.
Yes, Mr. Kipps. This fog don't help.
The thickest of London pea soupers. A yellow fog, a filthy, evil-smelling fog. A fog that choked and blinded, smeared and stained. I worked at the dull details of some conveyancing of property leases, forgetful for the moment of it pressing against the window like a furred beast at my back.
Mr. Bentley wishes to see you, sir.
Straight away?
Straight away, sir, if you would.
That sniff, incidentally, occurred every 20 seconds, for which reason Holmes was, in general, confined to a cubbyhole in the outer lobby.
What now?
Well, now you become your employer, Bentley.
Oh, yes. Of course. Will it pass? Do I do all right?
Excellent. We'll make an actor of you yet.
Be quiet about that.
I'm sorry. Apologies. Proceed.
Sit ye down, Arthur, sit ye down. I don't suppose I ever told you about the extraordinary Mrs. Drablow, Mrs. Alice Drablow of Eelmarsh House. Dead, don't you know?
Oh.
I inherited Mrs. Drablow from my father. Her family has had their business with this firm for,
Oh, yes?
She was a good age, 87.
And it's her will you have there, I take it.
Oh. Mrs. Drablow was, as they say, a shut-in. Have you ever been to the Nine Lives Causeway?
No, sir.
Nor ever visited Eelmarsh in Northumbria?
No, never.
Never visited that county at all?
I'm afraid not.
Living there, anyone might become a shut-in.
I've only a hazy idea of where it is.
Then, my boy, go home and pack your bags. Take the afternoon train from King's Cross, changing again at Crewe, and then at Homaby. From there, you take the branch line to the little market town of Crithen Gifford. After that, to wait for the tide.
The tide?
You can only cross the causeway at low tide. That takes you on to Eelmarsh and the house.
Mrs. Drablow's house.
When the tide comes in, you're cut off till it's low again. Remarkable place. Years since I've been, of course. My father took me. She didn't greatly care for visitors.
Was she a widow?
Since early in her marriage, yes.
Children?
Children. From everything we've been told about Mrs. Drablow, no, there were no children.
Did she have a great deal of land or money?
She owned her house, of course, and a few properties in Crithen Gifford, shops with tenants, that sort of thing. There's a poor sort of farm, half underwater, and the usual small trusts and investments.
All seems rather straightforward.
It does it not?
May I ask why I'm to go there?
To represent this firm at our client's funeral.
Yes, of course. I'll be very glad to attend Mrs. Drablow's funeral.
There is a bit more to it than that.
The will.
I'll give you the details for your journey. But principally, you're to go through Mrs. Drablow's documents, her private papers, whatever they may be, wherever they may be, and bring them to this office.
I see.
Mrs. Drablow was somewhat disorganized, shall I say? May take you a while.
A day or two?
At least a day or two, Arthur.
Will there be anyone there to help me?
There's a local man dealing with it all. I'll put you in touch.
But presumably she had friends or neighbors?
Eelmarsh House is far from any neighbor.
And being a shut-in, I suppose she never made any friends.
Oh, come, Arthur. Look on the bright side. Treat this whole thing as a jaunt. You'll be in Crithen Gifford late this evening. There's a small hotel you can put up at for tonight. The funeral is tomorrow morning at 11.
I had to inform my landlady that I'd be away for a couple of nights and scribble a note to my fiancée, Stella, to whom I hoped to be married in the following year. After that, I was to catch the afternoon train to a corner of England of which, until a few moments ago, I had scarcely heard.
The Drablow paper, sir.
Oh, thank you, Tomes. I must say, Tomes, that for all it's a strange part of the world, it's a relief to be getting out of this appalling fog and unhealthy atmosphere. And you still have doubts whether to go through with this?
Oh, certainly.
In spite of performing as you just have?
There are so many things we cannot represent. How the causeway? How the sea? How the dog? How the pony and trap?
With imagination, Mr. Kipps, ours and our audiences.
I would be obliged if you would inform me how imagination will create a pony and trap upon this stage.
Simple. Here, pony. Pony. Here, trap. What could be clearer?
It doesn't instantly say trap to me.
No, but you ride it, don't you? And with a whip and with recorded sound of ponies' hooves, nothing in the world could say pony and trap more clearly.
Except a pony and trap.
Let us not be finicky, Mr. Kipps.
I have to own the recorded sound is splendid. It was a great surprise to me.
It does not stop there. Tomorrow we are on a train with more surprises. Now, you will study these. You'll see I've divided the parts up again. I've also cut many of the descriptive passages.
Oh, but...
Recorded sound, Mr. Kipps. Recorded sound.
Nothing could raise his spirits more than the sight of this great cavern of a railway station, glowing like the interior of a blacksmith's forge. Beyond the windows, it is quickly dark, and when the carriage blinds are drawn, all is as cozy and enclosed as some lamp-lit study.
This is Crewe Station. Passengers for Homerby, please change here.
At Crewe, he changes with ease and continues on his way, noting that the tracks begin to veer to the east as well as continuing north. It is only when he comes to change again onto the branch line at the small town of Homerby that he begins to be less comfortable. For here, the air is a good deal colder and blowing in gusts from the east with an unpleasant rain upon its breath. And the train in which he is to travel the last hour of his journey is ancient and comfortless.
It's a poor night. Seems I've exchanged one kind of foul weather for another. I left London in the grip of an appalling fog, but up here it seems cold enough for snow.
That's not snow. The wind will blow itself out. Take the rain off with it by morning.
Very glad to hear it.
But if you think you've escaped the fogs by coming up here, you're mistaken. We get bad frets in this part of the world.
Frets?
Aye, sea frets, sea mists. They roll up in a minute from the sea to land across the marshes. 1 minute, it's as clear as a June day. The next, terrible. But if you're staying in Crichton, you won't see the worst of it.
Well, I stay there at the Gifford Arms tonight. I hope to see something of the marshes later.
Mrs. Drablow.
Oh.
Drablow, you don't tell me you're a relative.
No, I'm her solicitor.
Ah, bound for the funeral.
I am.
You'll be about the only one that is.
Well, I gather she was something of a recluse. That is sometimes the way with old ladies. They turn inward, grow eccentric. I suppose it comes from living alone for so long.
I dare say that it does. Mr.
Kipps. Arthur Kipps.
Samuel Daly. And when you live alone in such a place as that, it becomes a good deal easier.
Come, you're not going to start telling me strange tales of lonely houses.
No, I am not.
Well, all I can say is it's a sad thing when someone lives till 87 and can't count on a few friendly faces to be there at her funeral. How far have we to go?
Oh, 12 miles? It's a far-flung part of the world. We don't get many visitors.
I suppose because there's nothing much to see.
That all depends on what you mean by nothing. Still, you'll find everything hospitable enough in Crichton for all it's a plain little place. We tuck ourselves in with our backs to the wind and carry on with our business, should you need anything.
Oh, no, it's quite all right. Whatever help I need, I'm sure the local agent will provide, and I don't intend to be here more than a day or two. Thanks, all the same. The Gifford Arms was as comfortable a hotel as I could have wished for. My spirits rose. I began to feel like a man come on holiday rather than one come to attend a funeral. My dearest Stella.
Are you a friend of Mr. Daly's then, sir?
No.
Not meaning to pry, only I saw you arrive in his car.
I met him on the train. He was good enough to bring me from the station.
Large landowner is Mr. Daly.
Oh. In that case, I may have something to do with him before the year's out. I'm the solicitor looking after the affairs of Mrs. Alice Drablow of Eel Marsh House. Perhaps you knew of her.
I knew of her.
Well, it's probable her property will come up for sale in due course.
I doubt whether even Sam Daly would go so far.
Not sure I quite understand what you mean. Isn't there a farm some miles out of town?
Haggett's. 50 acres, half of it underwater. Haggett's is nothing.
What about Eel Marsh and the land surrounding it? Would that not be practicable for farming?
No, sir.
Or might not Mr. Daly simply want to expand his empire? You imply he is that kind of man.
Maybe he is. But let me tell you, you won't find anyone, not even Mr. Samuel Daly, having to do with any of it. Wish you good night, sir. Oh, we can serve breakfast any time of the morning to your convenience.
There seems to be a propensity for leaving conversations to hang in the air whenever Mrs. Drablow's name is mentioned. People close up, change the subject, or leave the room. Country people, particularly those who inhabit the remoter corners of our island, are rather more superstitious, more gullible than those of us who encounter city life every day. Doubtless, in such a place as this, with its eerie marshes, sudden fogs, moaning winds, and lonely houses, any poor old woman might be looked at askance. Once upon a time, after all, she would have been branded as a witch.
Admitted, Mr. Kipps. Secretly, you are enjoying this.
I am very grateful to you for your assistance. I cannot say that I am enjoying it.
Mr. Kipps, every day you have come here, you have grown in stature and confidence.
But this is merely practice. What you call rehearsal. I fear before an audience it will be altogether different.
Mr. Kipps, sir,
Yes?
for all you deny it, you damn well will be an actor. Now, tomorrow I should like to work right the way through to the end.
In one,
If we can, how does that seem to you?
it horrifies me. Watching you, it is as if I relive it all moment by moment. Though you will never suffer as I did, I must always tell myself that.
But never think I do not feel for you. I have a child myself,
You have?
a daughter. She's 4.
And happy? And well?
I thank Providence.
Love her. Take care of her. Yes. Well, tomorrow. Yes, let us work through to the end. Oh, and Miss... Tomorrow, all being well, I shall have a surprise for you.
Excellent, Mr. Kipps. You have a theatrical's instincts, if not his enthusiasm. Well, till tomorrow then.
Mr. Kipps?
Yes.
Mr. Jerome, your agent here.
Oh, yes, of course. How'd you do?
I trust you had a good night.
I can't remember when I've slept better.
Oh, good, good. It's a sad business what brings you up here.
Yes, of course. Naturally, I never met Mrs. Drablow.
Oh, no. No, of course not. I don't mean to rush you, Mr. Kipps, but if we stepped out now, we'd be just about right for time.
Yes, of course. I must say, Mr. Jerome, that my first impressions of your little town are entirely favorable.
It's a busy day for us, market day. They come from all over.
I could wish to see it under happier circumstances. Our funeral garb seems at odds with the prevailing atmosphere of the place. Is it my imagination? Are we the object of some scrutiny? There, those men. They looked at me, they caught my eye, then they turned away again.
It's only a short walk to the graveyard, Mr. Kipps.
I feel like a pariah. Well, I suppose we must look like a pair of gloomy ravens among all this, Mr. Kipps. You and I, Mr. Jerome, are the spectres at the feast. I take it she is to be buried in the churchyard.
Oh, that is so, yes.
Is there a family grave?
No. At least not here, not Not this churchyard.
Somewhere else?
It is no longer in use. The area is unsuitable.
Not sure I quite understand you.
I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. And though after worms destroy this body, yet in my flesh shall I see God, whom I shall see for myself, and mine eyes shall behold, and not another. Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. And the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. So when this corruptible shall have put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, Death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where is thy victory? Therefore, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. For as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. Man that is born of woman hath but a short time to live, and is full of misery. He cometh up, and is cut down, like a flower. He fleeth as it were a shadow, and never continueth in one stay. In the midst of life we are in death, of whom may we seek for salvation? But of thee, O Lord, who for our sins are justly displeased. For as much as it hath pleased Almighty God of his great mercy to take unto himself the soul of our dear sister here departed, we therefore commit her body to the ground, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
A poignant ceremony. Tell me, that young woman, I hope she can find her own way home. She looks so dreadfully unwell. Who was she? The young woman behind you in the church, and then again, a few yards from us here in the graveyard.
A young woman?
Yes, her skin was stretched over her bones. I could scarcely bear to look at her. She was tall. She wore a bonnet type of hat, I suppose to cover as much of her face as she could, poor thing. Is there anything the matter? You look unwell.
I did not see a young woman.
But surely she... Well, look, there she is again. Mr. Jerome, you can take my arm. Be obliged, sir, if you'd loosen your grip a little. I saw a bench back in the churchyard. You can sit there, rest and recover. I'll go for help. I'll get a car.
No!
Good sir.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I apologize. It was nothing. A passing faintness. Perhaps it would be best if you would walk with me back to my offices on Penn Street, just off the square.
If you're sure.
Quite sure, quite.
You had me worried for a moment
I
there.
apologize. It was nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Very well. I gather you are to take me out to Eel Marsh House later.
No. No, I shall not go there. You can cross over any time after 1 o'clock. Mr. Keckwick will come for you. He has always been the go-between to that place. I take it you have a key. You will find Mr. Keckwick perfectly obliging.
Good.
Though not very communicative.
Oh, I'm getting used to that. I'm sorry, Mr. Kipps, I have to stop you. You said you had a surprise. I had no idea it would be that.
No?
That was the most remarkable coup de théâtre I have ever experienced.
No, really?
I'm devastated. Devastated. How did you manage it?
Well, I worked hard, I suppose. Well, as you said, time and tears.
Yes, but from nowhere. It was terrifying. How on earth did you set about it?
Oh,
very well. Very well. I understand. One must appreciate the magic. One must not ask how the magic works, huh? But I do appreciate it. I do, believe me. Quite remarkable and terrifying.
Well, you're very kind, sir.
And you, sir, are a true theatrical. Well, do we proceed?
If you wish.
And will there be more surprises?
I will do my best, though I cannot be altogether confident. Mr. Kipps.
Yes? Oh, you're not Mr. Keckwick by any chance, are you? Oh. How delightful. I was expecting a car. Oh. Whoop! This is a remarkable corner of the world, Mr. Keckwick. Sky, sky, and only a strip of land. This must be how those great landscape painters saw Holland, or the area around Norwich, don't you think? Not a cloud today, though I can well imagine how magnificently that huge area of brooding sky would look with grey scudding rain and storm clouds lowering over the estuary. It's quite startlingly beautiful. Sense of space, the vastness of the sky. I would have travelled 1,000 miles to see this. I never imagined such a place. And that, I take it, is the 9 Lives Causeway. Ahead, the water gleamed like metal, lying only shallowly over the sand. A narrow track led directly forward, and I could see how, when the tide came in, it would quickly be submerged and untraceable. And then I looked up ahead and saw, as if rising from the water itself, a tall, gaunt house of grey stone with a slate roof. It stood like some beacon or lighthouse, the most astonishingly situated house I had ever seen or could ever conceivably have imagined. Isolated, uncompromising, but also, I thought, handsome. For a moment or two, I simply stood looking around me in amazement. I felt a strange sensation, excitement mingled with alarm. But I was not afraid. Of what could I be afraid in this rare and beautiful spot? The wind? The marsh birds' cries? How long will the causeway remain passable?
Till 5.
Listen, it'd be quite ridiculous for you to be driving to and fro twice a day. The best thing is for me to get my other bags and some food and drink and stay a couple of nights here. That way I'll finish my business a good deal more efficiently and you will not be troubled. I'll return with you this afternoon, then tomorrow morning perhaps you could bring me out as early as possible, according to the tides. Or perhaps you'd prefer to stay here for me now, though I will be a couple of hours. You know what suits you best.
And so, imagine, if you would, this stage an island, this isle a causeway, running like a ribbon from the salt marsh through the sea, the only link between the gaunt grey house and land. Imagine Arthur Kipps, alone there now, a tiny figure, lost in the immensity and wideness of marsh and sky, dwarfed by the house, alone amid the mysterious, shimmering beauty. He feels the key in his pocket, but he does not go inside. Instead, he moves away from the house, towards the fragmentary ruins of some old church or chapel. To the west, on his right hand, the sun is already beginning to slip down in a great, wintry, golden-red ball. To the east, sky and sea have darkened slightly into a uniform leaden gray. Imagine now a burial ground. Imagine 50 gravestones, most of them leaning or completely fallen, covered in lichens, mosses, scoured pale by the salt wind, stained by years of driving rain. Names and dates are barely decipherable. Imagine him now, grown conscious of the cold, the bleakness and eeriness of the spot. Decide to return to the house, to light a fire, to switch on a good many lights. Now see him turn.
Beyond the wall, within a yard or two, the grass gave way to sand and shallow water. Salt flats and marshes stretched away until they merged with the rising tide. I could see for miles. There was no sign at all of the woman in black. nor any place in which she could possibly have concealed herself. I did not believe in ghosts.
He returns to the house. For a long time, he does not move from the dark, wood-paneled hall. He needs company, and he has none. He wants lights. He needs reassurance. But more than anything, he needs an explanation, for he does not believe in ghosts.
But out in the marshes just now, I saw a woman whose form was quite substantial, and yet oh God. I cannot describe it. The expression on her face, desperate, yearning malevolence, filled me with indescribable loathing and fear. And then she vanished, as no human being could possibly have managed to do. I did not believe in ghosts.
What other explanation is there?
Kitchen, scullery, living room, sitting room, dining room, study.
Nothing unpleasant. No shades of Miss Havisham. No rubbish piled in corners. No half-starved dogs or cats. A damp, musty, sweet, sour smell there is. But is that remarkable in a house situated as is this one? Furniture? Good, solid, dark, old-fashioned furniture. Books, pictures, bureaus, writing tables, papers. Papers in boxes, papers in bundles, letters, receipts, legal documents, notebooks, all of which he must examine. A huge task, and one which there is little point in starting now. It is too late, and he is too unnerved.
How one old woman could have endured in a house such as this, day after day, year after year, I could not imagine. I should have gone mad.
He decides to return, leave the place till the following morning. It will be an hour before Keckwick returns for him, and if he steps out well, he will be back in Crith and Gifford in time to save him from stepping out. The causeway is still visible, the roads are straight, and he cannot possibly lose himself. Imagine him now striding ahead, small and insignificant in that vast landscape. As he walks, he summons up the image of the black-robed figure, persuades himself that she had not vanished as he'd thought, but that there must have been some slope or dip into which she had concealed herself, for he does not believe in ghosts. He puts her from his mind, continues on his way, noting and struck by the absolute indifference of water and sky to his presence. Then, from this reverie, he becomes aware that he cannot see for more than a few yards ahead, and that behind him, Eelmarsh House is quite invisible.
Damp, thick sea mist. Damp, clinging, cobwebby, fine, and impenetrable. The sea fret Mr. Daly talked of.
He must retrace his steps, return to the house, and wait till Keckwick comes for him.
The mist was salty, pale, and fine, and moving in front of my eyes all the time. I felt confused, teased by it, as though it were made up of a million live fingers that crept over me, hung onto me, then vanished away again.
Step by slow step he goes, a nightmare walk, until...
Keckwick? Keckwick! No. Oh no. Oh! Oh no! Oh no, Keckwick!
In fearfulness and despair, he goes about the house, switching on every light he can make work in the vain hope that their dim glow would be seen across the misty wasteland.
Every door was open. Every room was dusty, orderly, bitterly cold, yet somehow stifling.
There is a long passage on the second floor. At one end, 3 bedrooms. At the far extreme, there is one door. There is no bolt on the outside, no keyhole. It is locked. You have to wait for a fret like that to clear itself. There's no crossing over while a fret's up. Unlucky for you, that was. Then there's the wait for the tide. Awkward place. You'll be finding that out fast enough.
What time is it?
Nigh on 2.
Oh, it's very good of you to come back this late. I'd never have expected that.
I wouldn't have left you over the night. I wouldn't have done that to you.
But what happened to you? How did you get to be here? How did you get out? I fell into a sort of trance, half sleeping, half waking, rocked by the motion of the cart. I knew that I'd entered some hitherto unimagined realm of consciousness, and there was no going back. That the woman by the graves had been ghostly, I now not believed, no, knew. For certainty lay deep within me. And I began to suspect that the Ponian trap with the child that had cried so terribly and which had been sucked into the quicksand, they too had not been real. Not there. Present, not substantial. Ghostly, also. What I had heard as clearly as I now heard the rolling of the cart and the drumming of the pony's hooves. And what I had seen, the woman with the wasted face by Mrs. Drablow's grave, and then again, in the old burial ground, I had seen. I would swear to that on oath. And yet they had been, in some sense I did not understand, ghostly, unreal, things that were dead. Mr. Jerome, I trust you are fully recovered after your experience at Mrs. Drablow's funeral.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
I expect you're wondering why I'm here. You see, I had no idea, I don't know if you did, of the volume of papers belonging to Mrs. Drablow. Tons of the stuff, and most of it no doubt so much waste, but nevertheless I must go through it item by item. It would appear that I'm in need of some help.
I can't offer you any help, Mr. Kipps. Oh, no.
Well, I wasn't thinking you personally, but perhaps you have a young assistant.
Oh, there's no one else. I am quite on my own. I cannot offer any assistance.
Help me to find someone. Surely the town will yield me a young man with a modicum of intelligence, keen to earn a few pounds.
I'm sorry. This is a small town. Young people leave. There are never openings.
But I'm offering an opening, albeit temporary.
You will find no one suitable.
Sir Jerome, what you mean is not that there is no one available, that no young person or old person, for that matter, could help me. You are backing away from speaking the truth of the matter, which is that I should not find another soul willing to spend any time out at Eel Marsh House, for fear of the stories about that place proving true, for fear of encountering what I have already encountered.
Keckwick came back for you?
Yes. I was more grateful than I can say.
There's nothing Keckwick doesn't know about Eel Marsh House.
Do I take it he fetched and carried sometimes for Mrs. Drablow?
She saw no one else. Not
another living soul.
There are stories. Tales. There's all that nonsense. You can discount most of it.
Yes, but not all of it.
You saw that woman in the churchyard.
I saw her again, in the old burial ground. Oh. Well, I'm not going to be put off by a ghost or several ghosts. My work has to be done. And I fail to see what animosity the woman in black can have towards me. I wonder who she was. Is. I scarcely know how to refer to her. I must face it out, Mr. Jerome. Such things one must face.
So I said. So I said once.
Mr. Kipps. Arthur. Are you all right?
I? Yes. Jerome was terrified.
No, you. You yourself would appear to be in a state of emotion.
I am. I was. Our emotions had become so volatile, so extreme, that I felt as if we were living in another dimension. My heart seemed to beat faster, our step to be quicker. Everything I saw was brighter, its outlines more clearly, precisely defined.
Can you go on?
Yes.
Can you go on till the end?
Yes! Yes, let us work through to the end. Let us have done with it, for God's sake. Ah, Mr. Kipps,
Mr.
how's
Daly.
things with you?
Very well.
Come here.
Thank you.
And your business?
Oh, Mrs. Drablow's papers. I shall soon have all that in order, though I confess there's rather more than I'd anticipated.
So you have been out to the house?
Certainly.
Ah.
To tell the truth, I'm enjoying myself. I'm finding the whole thing rather a challenge.
Mr. Kipps, you are whistling in the dark. You're a fool if you go through with it.
If you mean you think that I should leave the job I've been sent here to do and turn tail and run...
Listen to me, Arthur. I'm not going to fill you up with a lot of women's tales. You'd find those out fast enough if you ask about the place. Maybe you already have.
No. Only hints. And Mr. Jerome turning pale.
But you've been out to the house.
I went there, and I had an experience I should not care to go through again, although I confess I can't explain it. It seems to me, Mr. Daly, that I have seen whatever ghost haunts Eel Marsh. A woman in black, with a wasted face. Because I have no doubt at all that she is what people call a ghost. That she was not a real, living, breathing human being. Well, she did me no harm. She neither came near me nor spoke to me. I did not like her look. And I liked the power that seemed to exude from her towards me even less, but I have convinced myself that it is a power that can do no more than make me feel afraid. If I go there and see her again, I am prepared.
And the pony and trap?
So you know of that too? I won't run away.
You shouldn't go there.
I'm afraid I am going there.
You shouldn't go alone.
It seems I can find no one to come with me.
No, and you will not.
Good God, man. Mrs. Drablow lived there alone for what, 60-odd years, till a ripe old age? Surely she came to terms with the ghosts around the place.
Aye, maybe that's just what she did do. But you're set on it.
I am.
Then take a dog.
I haven't got a dog.
I have. Come on, girl.
Oh.
Good girl. Huh. Well, take her. Bring her back when you're done.
Will she come with me?
She'll do what I tell her.
What's her name?
Spider.
Hey, Spider. Oh. Well, there. I'll be grateful for the company, I must confess. Come on. Come, Spider. Come, girl.
Next morning, he cycles back on a bicycle lent him by his landlord. The little dog Spider bounds behind. The sun is already high. The very air seems purified and more exhilarating.
There they lay. Those beckoning, silvery marshes. I could hear the mysterious silence, and once again the haunting, strange beauty of it all aroused a response deep within me. I could not run away from that place. It drew me. My imaginings, my longings, my curiosity, my whole being towards itself.
He lights fires, airs sheets and blankets, opens windows, draws up blinds. He sets himself to work in one of the bays of the morning room.
Well, Spider, have you ever seen a more worthless collection of papers? I do believe Mrs. Drablow kept every bill, receipt, Christmas card she ever had. There's even shopping lists here, would you believe?
It was pretty tedious going, but he persevered patiently enough, untying and cursorily examining bundle after bundle of worthless paper before tossing them aside.
Spider? Spider? Rabbits! Come on, girl. Last time I was here among these graves, I saw a woman, Spider. Where is she now? Where is she now? In loving memory, something net Humphrey, 190 something. And of her dear departed I.E.L. Drablow. Come on, come on, Spider.
He returns to the house and to his task. Spider is an excellent companion, and he is happy of her gentle breathing, her occasional scratching or clattering about in that big empty house. But his main sensation is one of tedium and a certain lethargy, combined with a desire to finish the job and be back in London with his dear Stella.
Another day or two, and we'll be done, Spider. Time for bed, girl. Time for bed. I wonder if Mr. Daly would let me take you back with me to London. You'd like Stella. Don't think you'd like London much. Well, good night, girl. Good night. What is it, Spider? What is it, girl? Stay with me. Stay with me.
He gropes his way to his bedroom and looks out. There lie the marshes, silver, gray, and empty.
But no
There
one...
is the water of the estuary, flat as a mirror with a full moon upturned upon it.
Nothing. The slightest of breezes. Nothing more.
Next morning, he awakens to a change in the weather. When he looks out, he can scarcely see the division between land and water, water and sky. All is a uniform gray with a low, thick cloud and drizzle.
I cycled back to Criffin, Spider bounding behind me. There was a letter there from Stella, full of exclamations of regret at my absence and pride in my responsibility. I had the landlord's wife refill my hamper, purchased a good, strong torch, and with the letter warming my inside pocket, cycled back to the house, whistling as I went.
He works through the day, clearing paper after paper. Then, after supper, for a diversion, he begins to read some of the letters he has found.
They were dated from a February of about 60 years ago until the summer of the following year. They were sent first from a manor house, a village about 20 miles from here, then later from a lodge in Scotland. They were addressed, "My dear," or "Dearest Alice," and signed for the most part J, but occasionally Jeanette. The writer, a young woman and apparently a relative of Mrs. Drablow's, was unmarried, but with child.
In Scotland, a son is born to her, and she writes of him with a desperate, clinging affection. Pressure is being put on her to give up the boy for adoption, but she refuses, saying over and over again, they will never be parted.
He is mine. Why should I not have what is mine? He shall not go to strangers. I shall kill us both before I let him go.
Then the tone changes.
What else can I do? I am quite helpless. If you and Morgan are to have him, I shall mind it less. I suppose it must be.
But the last letter of all is written in a small, cramped hand.
Love him. Take care of him as your own. But he is mine. Mine. He can never be yours. Oh, forgive me. I think my heart will break. J.
In the same packet is a simple document declaring Nathaniel Pearston, infant son of Jeanette Humphrey, is become, by adoption, the child of Morgan Thomas Drablow of Eelmarsh House, Crithin Gifford, and of his wife, Alice.
What is it, Spider? Who is it, girl? But no one had been here. No one. The only way out of the room was through the door that I had come through, and no one had passed me.
It is a child's nursery. A bed in one corner, made up and complete. On the table beside it is a nightlight and a small wooden horse. In a chest of drawers are clothes for a small boy of 6 or 7, beautiful, well-made clothes in the style of 60 or more years ago. And toys most neatly and meticulously cared for. There are lead soldiers arranged in regiments, a farm set out with barns and fences, a toy ship complete with masts and sails of linen.
They must have been here over half a century. Yet they might have been played with this afternoon. There was nothing here to frighten or harm me. There was only a curious air of sadness, of something lost, missing, so that I myself felt a desolation, a grief in my own heart. I've got the torch. The torch. The torch. Lovely spider. Torch. Light. Light. Torch. Lovely spider. Let it be morning. Let it be light. What is it, spider? Who is it, girl? Who is it, girl?
Before he can restrain her, she is off, running low and fast, away from the house and out across the marshes.
Spider, come back, spider, come back!
He stands amazed and bewildered as Spider's small form recedes into the vast expanse. Then he runs as he has never run before.
Spider!
She is floundering in the mud, fighting to retain the balance from the pool beneath her feet.
Have courage,
She
girl.
is yelping loudly, still just visible. Then he too begins to feel the stickiness and unsteadiness of the ground as it becomes boggier.
Keep trying, girl.
He is obliged to wade rather than walk.
Keep still.
The little dog can scarcely hold up.
Keep still.
Her legs and half her body have disappeared beneath the whirling, sucking bog, and her little head is held up high for air as she struggles and yelps. He grabs her neck just as the last of her body sinks. He hauls and strains with a strength born of terror. He feels his grip on her slippery, wet fur give. Then, with one last gasp of effort, he drags their bodies backward onto firmer ground.
Oh, thank God. Thank God, spider. Spider, thank God.
Arthur! Arthur! Mr. Gibbs! Arthur.
Trap. Trap. Pony and trap.
Why, it's over here. I like to travel with it now and again. A pleasant way. What did you think?
I heard others. Another.
Not Keckwick?
No.
No. Oh, you take care now.
I'm better. I'm all right.
I was worried. I had you on my mind. It began to unsettle me. I wasn't happy.
What time is it?
It's early enough. I kept waking. As I said, I had you on my mind.
How strange.
Strange. Not strange to me. No, not strange at all.
No.
Good job I came when I did.
Yes. I'm very glad to see you, Mr. Dane. I'm very...
People have drowned on those marshes before now.
I know that now. I felt my body being dragged under. And the dog with me. Spider.
Oh, she's here. She'll do. Now, when you've come to a bit more, you'd better get your things and we'll be off.
Off?
Aye. I came to see how you were faring in this God-forsaken place. I have seen. You'd better come home with me and recover yourself.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Come on, Arthur. We'll be home in no time. Spider! Come, girl. Up, lass.
Nathaniel Drablow, age 6. Cause of death, drowning. Rose Judd, nursemaid. Cause of death, drowning. Jeanette Eliza Humphrey, spinster, age 36. Cause of death, heart failure.
You have come a long way since we met on the late train.
Feels like 100 years.
Been through some rough seas.
Do you suppose that poor Mrs. Drablow was haunted by the ghost of that woman in black day after day, year after year?
Jeanette Humphrey. She was her sister.
Do you suppose she had to endure those horrible sounds day after day? If such was the case, I wonder she did not go mad.
Perhaps she did not.
Was there anything I did not know? If I had gone there again, would I have encountered yet more horrors?
That I cannot tell.
You could tell me something. Come. We're a good distance from the place now, and my nerves are quite steady. I must know! It cannot hurt me now.
Not you. No. Not you.
What are you
maybe.
holding back?
Listen to me, Arthur. You, tomorrow or the next day, will be gone from this place. You, if you are lucky, will never hear, nor know, nor see of anything to do with that damned place again. The rest of us have to stay. We've to live with it.
With what? With stories? Rumors? Sightings of that woman in black from time to time? With what?
With whatever will surely follow. One time or other. Crithyn Gifford has lived with that for 50 years. It's changed people. We don't speak of it. You found that out. Those who have suffered worst say least. Jerome, Keckwick. Jeanette Humphrey gave up her child, the boy, to her sister, Alice Drablow, because she'd no choice. At first, she stayed away from Crithyn, hundreds of miles away. But in the end, the pain of being parted from him instead of easing grew worse, and she returned to Crithyn Gifford. She rented rooms in the town. She'd no money. She took in sewing. She acted as a lady's companion. At first, apparently, Alice Drablow would not let her sister see her boy. Jeanette was so distressed, she threatened violence. And in the end, the sister relented, only so far. Jeanette could visit very occasionally, but she could never see the boy alone or ever reveal who she was or that she had any relationship to him. No one ever foresaw he'd turn out to look so like her, or that the natural affinity between them should come out. He became more and more attached to the woman who was, in fact, his natural mother. And as he did so, he grew colder and colder to Alice Drablow. Jeanette planned to take him away. That much I do know. But before she could, the accident happened, as you've heard. The boy, his nursemaid, the pony and trap, and its driver, Keckwick.
Keckwick?
Keckwick's father. There was the boy's little dog, too. That's a treacherous place, as you've found out to your cost. The sea mists come without warning. The quicksands are hidden.
So they all drowned?
And Jeanette Humphrey watched from the house at an upper window. They recovered the bodies the next day. They left the pony and trap, held too fast by the mud. From that day, Jeanette Humphrey began to go mad.
Or was it any wonder?
No. Mad with anger, mad with grief, and a desire for revenge. She blamed her sister who'd let them go out that morning, but it was no one's fault. The mists come suddenly.
Out of a clear sky.
Whether because of this madness, or anger, or whatever, Jeanette began to waste away. The skin shrank from her bones. All color drained from her. She looked like a walking specter, a living skeleton. Children were terrified of her. She died eventually. She died in hatred and in misery. And as soon as ever she died, the hauntings began. And wherever she has been seen, on the marshes, in the graveyard, on the streets of the town, however briefly, and whoever by, there has been but one sure and certain result.
Yes?
In some violent or dreadful circumstance, a child has died.
What? You mean by accident?
Generally, an accident. But once or twice, it has been after an illness which has struck them down in a day or night or less.
Any child? A child of the town?
Any child. Jerome's child.
But surely, children do die sometimes.
They do.
And is there anything more than chance to connect these deaths with the appearance of that woman? Has any child perished since my sightings of her?
Not yet. You may find this hard to believe.
Well,
You may doubt it. We know.
I do not doubt, Mr. Daly.
Stella.
Dead, don't you know?
Stella.
The Drablow papers, sir.
Is there a family grave?
Behold, I show you a mystery.
I did not see a young woman. Stella.
Dead, don't you know?
Stella.
I wouldn't have left you over the night.
A woman in black. A woman.
Whistling,
A woman in black with a wasted face.
whistling in the dark. You shouldn't go there.
Drabble.
Alone, you shouldn't go there. Dead, don't you know?
I think my heart will break.
Spider. Come back.
He can never be yours.
Child,
Stella.
in hatred.
A child.
He can never be yours.
Stella! There is only the last thing left to tell. Within a few weeks, Stella and I were married. And a little over a year later, she gave birth to our child, a son, whom we called Joseph Arthur Samuel, and Mr. Samuel Daly was his godfather. I never thought of the past. I was filled with joy and contentment in my life. I was in a particularly happy and peaceful frame of mind one Sunday afternoon the following summer. We'd gone to a large park 10 miles or so outside London. There was a happy, holiday, festive atmosphere about the place. There was a lake, a bandstand, stalls selling ice creams and fruit. Families strolled in the sunshine, children tumbled on the grass. Stella and I walked happily, with little Joseph taking a few unsteady steps, holding on to our hands. One of the attractions on offer was a pony and trap, on which rides could be taken. And little Joseph gestured towards it excitedly, and so, because there was only room for two, Stella took Joseph, and I watched them bowl merrily down the ride. For a few seconds they went out of sight around a corner, and I began to idly look around me at the other enjoyers of the afternoon, and then, quite suddenly, I saw her. Our little boy had been thrown clear against a tree. His body lay crumpled on the grass beneath it, dead. And 10 months later, Stella, too, died of her terrible injuries. I had seen the ghost of Jeanette Humphrey, and she had had her revenge. You asked for my story. I've told it to you. Enough.
Thank you.
Thank you. And is it over now, do you think? Will it all be laid to rest?
I pray it will be. I thank you for your efforts, your enthusiasm. Watching you now, it was as if I watched myself.
I imagined my own child.
Yes. Well, I pray when we show it our audience, at last it will be done with.
Who was she?
I beg your pardon?
Your surprise, Mr. Kipps, she's remarkable. Where did you find her?
I'm afraid I don't understand.
Your surprise, Mr. Kipps, the surprise you found for me.
My surprise was that I'd learnt all my words.
Yes. Well, yes, you did that expertly. But the actress, the woman in black, who was she? Well, you organized it as a complete surprise. You had her come here, go through her part, and well, a young woman with a wasted face.
A young woman?
Is there anything the matter? You look unwell.
I did not see a young woman